Sarah, and Vinnie on Alice at 97.3.
All right, beautiful people of Alice Radio. Here is your review of a movie that we should have seen in 2014 called Selma. Starring David Oyelowo, Cuba Gooding Jr., Tim Roth, Giovanni Ribisi, Martin Sheen, Oprah Winfrey, and Common.
All right, calm down. This is a serious movie, Vinny.
And it's directed by a woman.
Mic is off. I don't even know why you're talking.
It's directed by a woman named Ava DuVernay. So in this film, it focuses on one moment in the life of Martin Luther King, his campaign to secure equal voting rights in Alabama, and it chronicles the march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama. Marcus, last year we saw a film called Get On Up about the life of James Brown. And at the end of the film, you said, Hooman, there are some people that are nearly impossible to portray. You didn't love the film.
I didn't hate the film.
Yeah, but...
It was kind of cartoonish.
Okay, there you go. But I know Martin Luther King falls into that same category. Somebody who's really difficult to portray. So how did David Oyelowo do as he pulled off MLK?
Anybody who's still alive is hard to pull off. But he was great. They took this role a lot more serious than they took the James Brown role. Not to say that Chadwick Boseman wasn't a great James Brown. He was good at doing kind of that imitation, but this is more along the lines of what Jamie Foxx did with Ray. The way he spoke, the cadence of Martin Luther King Jr., perfect. Perfect imitation of Martin Luther King Jr. Speaking in his regular speaking voice. Nobody can really imitate his oratory, but just when he's not making speeches, and there aren't a lot of speeches in the movie, phenomenal.
So up until this film, the footage I've seen of MLK, he's larger than life. He's just so great. He's so amazing. But after watching Selma, I saw a man who was like scared and unsure, who struggled and suffered, and it was so relatable. Did you notice that?
What do you mean relatable?
Like,
Hooman has suffered and struggled.
Yeah. For the average person, when you see MLK, the footage you see of him, it's so grand.
Oh, you're saying like
Well, you only ever really see him speeches and, when he's up there and seems powerful. And
Well, I mean, he was. I mean, think about it, the guy was dead by the time he was 39 years old, so all that stuff he had done, he did in his 20s and his 30s. I guess you could say there's something relatable about it. I mean, anybody who's gone through any struggle, particularly if you're someone who is in the minority, whether you were one of the Italians or the Irish coming here, or gay or black or whatever, sure, everybody can relate to that.
So there's an incredibly powerfully beautiful moment in this movie where it's like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., Martin Luther King needs to hear something greater and bigger than himself.
Yeah.
So he picks up the phone and he calls Mahalia Jackson and says to her, I need to hear the voice of God. So Mahalia sings over the phone to him to brighten his mood, to cheer him up, to give him a little bit of hope.
By the way, these are incidents that actually occurred because they came from the file of Martin Luther King Jr. because his phones and stuff were tapped throughout
his whole life.
Oh, they played the actual...
Well, they didn't play the actual tapes, but they took the incidents from those tapes and they brought those.
But they didn't play her singing over the phone.
No.
But
they should have. That would have been awesome.
But they did have an actress sing, and let's hear a little bit of Mahalia.
Let me stand. I am tired.
This isn't from the movie. This is her.
Yeah, this is just to give you an idea of what she sounds like.
I was going to say she had a piano there at 2 in the morning.
Well, she's a musician.
Mahalia Jackson, one of the all-time great gospel singers, everybody.
Through the storm. Through.
So let me say a word to the Christians who are listening right now. Go see this movie.
Christians?
Yeah, to the Christians. Because look, you can't talk about MLK without talking about his faith. I mean, he was constantly praying. The things he was doing was so much greater and bigger than him. And they're constantly referencing it in this film. I mean, he's in jail and there's a preacher next to him giving him a Bible verse to just remind him, don't worry, you can do this. You can make this happen. So to the Christians, go see this because it'll strengthen your faith. It'll give you hope. It'll show you, listen, all things are possible with God.
Oh, you didn't feel too hopeful at the end of it.
I felt super hopeful.
Really?
Didn't you?
Nah, not really. No, I'm like,
thought they
damn,
did-
nothing's changed. That's how I felt.
Did it end with his assassination?
No.
No.
It's just this
Oh,
one
so it's-
moment in time.
okay.
And
Yeah,
that's
it was
his-
really basically an episode, this particular episode,
is
the
he?
life of Martin Luther King Jr. He's 35, 36 in the film. It's
So-
just a couple of years before he was assassinated.
Marcus, I know there's people who study history. There's people who study American presidents. That's not me at all. But this
Really?
film takes place in 1965, and the president of the United States is Lyndon B. Johnson.
All right, here we go.
And I personally left the theater thinking, what a horrible human being. What a true, just abysmal person. He never wanted to do the right thing, ever. And the only time he did is when he was absolutely forced because people were protesting him and there were strikes against him and people were on the lawn of the White House.
Well, that is the point, though, right? He's a politician. He has to be pragmatic. He in his world at that time, doing things like this, he was already president, but doing things like this does not make you popular. Remember, the country was not for voting rights and civil rights and all that stuff. So he was a guy who had to go out on a limb. He had just been reelected president by the greatest margin in the history of the presidency, and he had other things to deal with, which is what he basically had to say. And I would expect any politician to say that to one single person, no matter how much you are into a particular issue. If that particular group is just harassing you to do my thing right now, you're the president. You can't take everybody seriously. So they did what they had to do, which is protest and make news every night and show that this is the way we are being treated. And if you don't do something right now, it's going to get a little bit uglier. And it did.
To sum it all up, let me just say this. The movie studios robbed us by not letting us see this movie in 2014 because
Yeah.
if they did, this would have been my number one film of 2015.
You loved it.
With that being said, I hope it wins Best Picture. It deserves it.
It won't.
It didn't even get a nomination for the
Five-person.
Golden Globes.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, was it?
It was nominated.
There was one that was, maybe it was the SAG
No,
Awards?
you said the People's Choice, maybe.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
there
got
was
Golden
one
Globe
like a
nomination.
glaring omission.
Yeah, it was nominated Best Picture. It got a hint like 5 or 6. And I agree with you, Hooman. It's too bad that they had to wait until now to screen this film because it is up for all the 2014 awards. So you'd think that we'd get a chance to see it before then.
Right.
It definitely would have ended up in my top 10. Really, really, really
What do you
good
give it?
film. I'm going to give it 4.5 Aussies.